Hi, I'm Tyler Klein with iPad Enclosures, and I'm here today to show you the assembly for the Strata Spectrum, the Strata Swipe for the Magtech iDynamo, and the Strata Swipe for Square Up. So you should have received a box in the mail, and all of these enclosures will have the same general components. So if you open your box, first thing you're going to see is the instructions, and then you'll have two other items. You'll have the enclosure, which is fully assembled, but not ready to go yet. And then you'll have a bag of equipment. You'll have gloves, a tool, and then some little feet for the inside to protect your iPad. So I've pulled everything out of the box. Since the Strata line is all made out of acrylic, it's very important when you're doing the assembly process that you start by putting on the gloves. Second step is we're going to actually have to take the enclosure apart and peel off all this backing. This will take a few minutes. Next up in the process, installing the bumpers for your iPad. I'm going to install one of them at each point in line with the VESA mounting. So it's most likely you have a stand that this is going with. So the first step of assembling the enclosure is actually to mount the back plate on the stand. So what I like to do is when I'm placing these pieces together, take a little piece of microcloth and just wipe any dust or anything that might be on the enclosure. When you install this guy, ensure that you have the little bumpers facing away from the enclosure. So we have 4 mounting screws that are provided with the stand, not the enclosure, that will go from the inside of the enclosure out towards the stand. I'm going to take the Allen wrench that was provided with the stand as well, and I'm going to tighten those up. Once you have this mounted, we're ready for the next step. And if you grab a buddy, it's very helpful for this part of the process. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the charge cable, I'm going to run it up the back of my stand, or the inside of my stand if it's a full stand, through the hole in the middle of the enclosure, just like this. I'm just going to let it hang there. Next, I'm going to take the iPad and I'm going to plug the charge cable in and set it down so the cable's running behind the iPad. Okay, next step is I've got 2 pieces. They've got a cutout on one side, and that cutout's going to go right where the cable is, fit right over that. So it'll hold it in there nice and tight. So you slide those on, and then finally, I'm ready for my top sheet. And again, if it's been sitting on a table or something, dust it off, make sure you don't have any lint or dirt on there. If you can see, there's a small pinhole here. That's going to be on my home button. So I'm going to set that down so it's on the home button. And I'm going to take my PIMs, I'm going to push them through the holes, line them up, going from the top down. And finally, I take my screws, and they're going to go on the back side, and finger tighten them. Once they're all in, I can take my screwdriver and snug them up. If you're using the Magtech iDynamo, you're not going to install the power cable. Instead, we're going to take the Magtech, we're going to plug it into the 30-pin adapter, and you charge the iPad through the back of the Magtech. All right, so the first piece that goes on is the one with the horseshoe, and that one matches up with the Magtech end, obviously. The second piece is the one that has the open end. Be nice and careful with this guy. And then the final one leaves the home button exposed. With the Magtech iDynamo, you have the option to leave the home button open or restricted. Now for the Strata Square model, when you're installing the bumpers, it is important that the cutout for the square is oriented to the bottom left and the back plate is long ways while you are looking at it. With the square, we want to make sure we plug in the charge cable. Next, we will install the square card reader. Also, before we finish putting the plate on, we want to make sure that we adjust our volume all the way up so the square card reader works well as make sure our multitasking gesture is on. Now we're ready for the plates. The first 2 have cutouts for the card reader and the charge port. Next, we have a plate that has an open cutout. And finally, we have the faceplate that has this small cutout. Now we just need to install our screws, the same as our other models. Once we're done with that, we've got a Strata. Check it out at iPadenclosures.com.